She wanted to be there more than anything, to see these experiments, to be there in the middle of the night, taking shifts, thinking only of the results. "Aunt Lisa!" Otto Robert was in front of her, holding wooden skis and looking so boyish and good and handsome in a fur hat. "Robert, look at you!" He hugged her with his skis. "Your father, have you heard anything?" Lisa asked, picking up her bag. "No. We're still trying to get him out. They said he can release if he leaves the country. And your mother, she hasn't replied to my last letter. She stopped leaving the house. She's scared she'll be attacked. I just don't understand. I don't understand it at all. I need some air," Lisa said. "You'll catch your death." "I'm fine. I have my coat." She buttoned it up and held out a letter. "I've got something to show you. I'm dying to tell you about my graphs. First, you must read this." Otto Robert placed the skis on the floor, took the letter and scanned it. "Have they made a mistake?" "What? No. Otto and Strassman are too good. They don't make mistakes." At the bottom of the hotel steps, Otto Robert fitted his feet into the wooden skis and tied the straps. He waded forward. Lisa laughed. "Don't fall." "I won't fall, Auntie." He pushed himself through the snow and the grass while Lisa kept to the cleared path, the cold seeping through her thin soles. They walked for a while, Lisa glancing at Robert lurching on his skis, his face tense with concentration and looking, for all the world, like he once did as a little boy, learning to ride a bike. Finally, Lisa said, "I think it can be explained by the fact the nucleus is not chipping or cracking. A bit does not chip off." "Bohr," said Otto Robert, out of breath. "Do you remember Bohr's idea about the nucleus being like a liquid drop which might elongate and divide itself?" "The uranium nucleus could be wobbly, unstable drop, ready to divide itself at the slightest provocation," Lisa said, pointing to a tree trunk lying on the ground. "Let's sit on there." She wiped the snow off and perched on the wood. "Like the impact of a neutron," Otto Robert said. Lisa's hands were shaking with cold as she searched in her bag for a scrap of paper and started writing down the packing fraction formula to work out how much energy was needed to break the surface tension of the atom. Otto Robert sat beside her, watching her writing, waiting, so attentive, as he used to do when he visited Gusti and Jutz in Vienna, and she'd sit him on her knee and with a copy of the periodic table explain how the elements were related to each other. And then in no time at all, Otto Robert was applying for a position in Hamburg, and it was so difficult having to give references for him. Lisa didn't want to be accused of nepotism. So the director of the institute wrote to her demanding to at least know whether Robert was a disagreeable person or not, and she'd had to reply saying, "No, he isn't a disagreeable person." "Like the impact of a neutron," Otto Robert said again. Lisa said, looking up. "Oh no, not like the impact of a neutron. Like the slow sidling up of a neutron, Robert, like a tiny bead of condensation beside a larger one. You see, the charge of uranium nucleus is large enough to destroy the effect of surface tension almost completely. The problem is that the two drops separated will be driven apart by their mutual electric repulsion and will require large energy, approximately 200 MeV. But where would that energy come from?" Otto Robert asked. "According to the packing fraction formula, the two nuclei formed by the division of a uranium nucleus could be lighter than the original uranium nucleus by about 1/5 the mass of a proton," Lisa said. She looked at the snow covering the fir trees and beyond the grey basin of the sea. She thought of her sister in Vienna, unable to leave the house, and Jutz in Dachau, and Otto saying he thought large numbers of Jews would be better treated in the camps than the political prisoners had, of Albert congratulating her on finally leaving their dear fatherland. And here she and Robert were, in this icy, frozen place, so far from everyone. "E equals mc squared," she said. "According to Albert's E equals mc squared, when mass disappears, energy is created." Lisa began to write down the equation as snow fell onto the paper. She shook it and tried to wipe the flakes away. "Here you are." Otto Robert shielded the paper with his hat as she worked out the equation. Shifting his skis to lean over her, Slow slid down a rounded end to join the snow on the ground. 200 MeV, Lisa said. 1/5 of a proton mass is equivalent to 200 MeV. When mass disappears, energy is created. M equals mc squared. There it is. There is the source of the energy. Lisa stared at the dampening paper and let it fall off her knee. Do you know what that means? She said. This means there were no transuranes. She pressed her red hands together. She could hardly bend them now. She needed to get inside, so she got up, every part of her aching from the cold, and walked back up the path to the hotel. Otto Robert following her awkwardly on his skis. But Aunt Lisa, think about it. 4 years' work, she said, turning to him. You don't know what this loss would mean to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.